Let me know when you're ready. Okay. I have a mover, Councillor DeRose, seconder, Councillor Longo, that council arise and reconvene from closed session into open session. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. I have a mover, Councillor Decker, seconded Councillor Kenny, that leave be given to introduce the following bylaw. Bylaw 62-2021, being a bylaw to execute the consortium agreement and the legacy lease agreement for Canada Summer Games Park. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to speak on this bylaw. As you know, it's a bylaw that's been about a year and a half in the making. This bylaw is, as you said, consortium agreement. And I'd just like the public to understand what it is, and I'd like to ask a few questions if I could. And if I stray into things that I should not be straying to, please stop me, but I will try to be nice.
I'll let the city clerk comment on the rules.
Anything in the consortium agreement.
I'll let the city clerk comment on the rules, please.
So through the mayor to members of council, when a motion to approve a bylaw, the motion is not debatable. The only motion that is debatable is a deferral or referral. So at this time, if you could please limit your comments to comments as opposed to any questions, as this item is not debatable.
So I just want clarity if I could. So 18 months has passed, the public has heard nothing, and I can't ask questions in a public forum regarding public dollars, is that correct?
Through the mayor to members of council, the questions that you are referring to, if they were asked, they would have been asked in closed session. Any questions that would be made available to the public would have been done so at the time of the previous meetings.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd have to disagree with that because I've never been in a public meeting where I was allowed to discuss this item because it's always been done in the back room in closed session. And the questions that I have are not questions that would be deemed appropriate in a closed session because they do not refer to the agreement. They're just questions pertaining to the process we've gone through. So I didn't want to spend time in camera asking questions that shouldn't be asked in camera because, as you know, under the Municipal Act, we have very strict rules on what we're allowed to discuss in camera.
So through the mayor to members of council, if you have any questions with regards to the signing of the bylaw, you can limit your discussion around the signing of the bylaw and not the process.
Okay, so I will ask a question before we sign this bylaw. It says that upon execution of the documents by all consortium partners and consent to disclose, does that mean that if a party does not want to disclose these documents, the public will never see them?
Through the mayor to members of council, what that means is if there is an FOI request and something is exempt through MFIPA under section 14, I believe, then the items, unless they are consented to by all parties, may not be released. There are items where there are allowed under exemptions if it's for the benefit of the community under public health safety, then it could be potentially disclosed. But again, it's a process that we would have to go through, and as the head of MFIPA.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the appropriate staff member, we were told many times in closed and open session that public would see everything when this was done. It doesn't seem to be the case. Can I have somebody clarify whether the public would be able to see these documents when they're signed?
Through the mayor and members of council, it is something that upon request of consent from all of the parties, if they have consented, then of course we would release it.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the answer is no, that if we will not see the documents because one party can block the city of Thorold and its residents from seeing what we're doing.
I will defer to the city clerk, but I don't know if that's the case. The other parties may be willing in agreement.
Through you,
Alternative-
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to disagree with you, because if the intention was to disclose, that line would not be in there to give somebody the ability to stop disclosure. We're supposed to be open and transparent, Mr. Mayor. We're supposed to release the documents in an agreement. We do not even have the agreement attached to the bylaw. In my opinion, this is wrong. We are voting on something we haven't even seen.
Well, I disagree with you on that, Councillor Longo, because you did see the agreements. We had a period of time when everybody had time to see the agreements, and we passed.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Wait,
And
and
I
we
went
passed
and
the
was locked in
resolution.
City Hall
Let me
in a
finish,
room
let
to
me
read the
finish,
agreement.
Councillor Longo. We did a process that everybody was aware of, and we fulfilled the process, and then we voted on a resolution, and it was passed. And then we asked that if they could, these tweakings, and then the bylaw would come forward. So to say that you never seen anything, I disagree. That
Mr.
those
Mayor?
agreements were well put out for a long period of time. So you know that, I know that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the appropriate staff member, can somebody tell me, is this the same agreement that Councillor Hanley and the majority of council voted to allow the public to review for 30 days prior to signing? Maybe the CEO could answer that for me.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the agreement that was presented to council and discussed at the in-camera meeting on November 10th, whatever the changes that has taken place to that agreement was presented tonight by Mr. David Willer. At the in-camera meeting, he highlighted the changes that has been made since November 10th, 2020 meeting. Thank you.
I didn't really get the answer. Was this the same agreement that Councillor Hanley asked that the public be given the right to review for 30 days, and the majority of council agreed with Councillor Hanley? Is this the same agreement?
I think that Councillor Longo, you know that agreement, those agreements, the period of time was given, and that the motion was revised based on the advice of our legal team, and you know that that's what happened prior to. And that's why the documents were put out, and that's why the process that was followed was the process that was laid out and recommended by our legal counsel. And we've been
Mr.
through
Mayor,
this, and
through
you know.
Question to you, Mr. Mayor. Is this the same agreement that you'd repeatedly said would become public in time?
That answer's been given. You can answer it again, please.
Through the
No, I'm
mayor.
asking you, Mr. Mayor, you've said this repeatedly in closed and open session, that this would become public in time.
Our goal is to make everything public, Councillor Longo, from our perspective in the city of Thorold.
If we sign this bylaw tonight, we will be doing the exact opposite, Mr. Mayor.
Well, that's, anyways.
Well, Mr. Mayor, it's this kind of
Councillor
important.
Longo, there was a procedure followed. You know what the procedure was? There was
I know what the procedure was. Go in the back room, in camera, and discuss things, and don't tell the public.
No, that's not why, and you know the reason, so
I
we
know the
followed the
reasons,
procedure
Mr.
of our
Mayor.
legal team, and that's why we did it, okay? That's the, you know, and these questions have been answered in camera, and I can't give you any
Mr.
more
Mayor, I
answers.
would like the public to know what's going on. We can't do everything in camera. It goes against our open and transparent policy. We're committing to a consortium agreement, yet we won't let the public know any of the details because we're giving the other parties the right to not consent to disclose. So what we're doing is committing to a long-term legacy lease project here, spending taxpayers' money and not telling them what their money's being used for. And it's wrong.
I think up to this point, we've been very open and transparent. We've told them what the money's being used for. These agreements come forward and will proceed as directed by the clerk and our legal counsel.
Mr. Mayor, through you to the appropriate staff member, can you tell me who negotiated this contract for the city of Thorold?
Do you want me to answer it, or do you just want to answer it? I know it was, who was involved from our senior team was Manoj Dawaria, Maria Morrow, and Jeff Holman, as well as our legal team, Tom Richardson and David Willer. And if I'm wrong, can you please explain, because that's my understanding.
And Mr. Mayor, through you, were there any members of council negotiating this contract?
We were not involved in the day-to-day negotiation of the contract. There was parts of the contract that you're aware of that I was made aware of. And the negotiating team that went back and made changes and negotiated agreement are the group that I said just now. Those 5 have been the one that have done the labor, have done a great job, and have put forth an agreement, and that I think is great personally for the city of Thorold. And the work and the hours they've put in have been countless.
Mr. Mayor, did we not have a member of council who was designated to be on a negotiation team?
No, that was, you're speaking of Councillor Kenny. Councillor Kenny was involved in meetings with, mostly with Jeff Holman on project updates and different things along that line. The agreements were negotiated by our senior team with our legal team.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was under the impression Councillor Kenny was part of that, because that's where council put him in that role. Did you at any time, Mr. Mayor, take part in these negotiations?
The only times I got called, Councillor Longo, is if they hit a roadblock and they needed the senior team, which the senior team includes the Mayor of St. Catharines, myself, the chair of the Brock Board, and from the region, Chair Bradley. But very rarely did we get involved. We weren't involved other, if there was a roadblock, we said try and work through it. It went back to the legal team and senior team to refine and make the changes necessary to try and make sure that the agreement comes to fruition.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was under the impression that we only authorized one member of council, that being Councillor Kenny, so I'm surprised again to hear that you took part in these negotiations.
Well, I think you should know that the mayor can sit on any committee.
Not when there's a specific rule put in place by council.
But anyways, the rule wasn't for negotiating the agreements, Councillor.
Yes, it was, Mayor.
No, it wasn't.
Mr. Mayor, are regional councilors aware, since you sit on regional council, do you know if they're aware of this consortium agreement and the details of this consortium agreement?
The updates they get on a basis are, they probably they're going to get an update this Thursday. I don't know exactly what that's going to involve, but it's not normal. And maybe the legal team can answer this, that these kind of agreements, can you explain that these agreements and how they're handled in a normal situations? Because personally, I have no problem with anything being put out there. I'm all for that.
It's my understanding, Mr. Mayor, that both the region and the city of St. Catharines delegated the negotiation of these contracts in the same manner that the city of Thorold did, that is to senior staff and their legal team. You'll recall that there was a lawyer working for the region, St. Catharines and Thorold. That was why we were brought on, because it was felt that each party should have their own legal representation, which is why we came on in July of last year. To my knowledge, the region and St. Catharines have proceeded strictly on the basis of their staff negotiating the agreement, with the occasion, as the mayor indicated, of the mayors and chairs. That is the mayor of Thorold, St. Catharines, the chair of the region, and the chair of the Brock Board. If we hit an impasse in the negotiation. So I believe, and I stand to be corrected, but I believe that all of the parties have proceeded in precisely the same way.
Thank you for that answer. I will let you know I spoke to two regional councilors, and neither one of them know any of the details of what is being negotiated on their behalf. It's my understanding there are numerous other agreements that still need to be signed, because at the beginning there were 7 agreements. This would make number 2 and 3. So are we signing and getting further in without knowing potential obligations, liabilities with future agreements that we still have to sign? Is this advisable?
I'm not aware of all of those agreements. Mr. Willer may want to comment. There will be an assignment of the site plan agreement, which the municipality, that is Thorold, signed with the host society at the very beginning of this process several years ago. That site plan agreement is now being assumed or assigned to the regional municipality of Niagara. You'll recall that the region stepped in and has taken over the responsibility for overseeing the construction. So I'm aware of that document. I'm not sure of what other documents there may be. Mr. Willer may be able to comment on that.
No, offhand, I'm not aware of any others.
Thank you. Well, I'm aware of an operational agreement, I believe, that we still need to get involved in, because we have to agree on how the center is going to be operated. There's a municipal capital facility agreement, and there's a couple more agreements, but they're probably not all that important, so I guess we can worry about those later. My general thoughts here are, if councilors feel strongly about this agreement, then they should want the public to see it. And you have the power, councilors. You have the power to change the wording in here. Amend this line 2. Get rid of consent to disclose. If you feel strongly about this and you think this is a good agreement, then put your money where your mouth is. Put your hand up and vote for it, and let the public see what you voted for. Because if we need to go and fight freedom of information requests so I can show the taxpayer down the street where his money's going, it's wrong. And I won't support this until the consent to disclose is removed. And even then, I still won't support it because it's a terrible deal. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to talk a little bit about equity and fairness. To start, let me share some facts and numbers. Thorold has 9,700 tax accounts to pay for all our services and the everyday functioning of our city. When you add up the consortium numbers of tax accounts, that represents, Thorold represents 12% of the total
Councillor,
number. I'm speaking to this, Mayor. What's wrong?
It's off topic. I'll let the clerk.
How is it off topic?
I'll let the clerk speak on that, please.
Mayor, how is it off topic?
Because we're dealing with the bylaw. No.
I'm making a statement why I'm not supporting the bylaw. Why can't I do that, Mayor? You said we could speak on it. I'm not asking any questions. I want to speak on it.
Through the mayor to members of council, if you could limit your comments to just you support or not support, I think that we've already allowed for some discrepancy with regards to the interpretation of making statements.
What's the usual protocol for allowing a councillor to speak? How long do we have to speak on an item? You can't tell me that I just have to say whether I agree with it or not.
As I mentioned earlier,
Why are you censoring
do
me?
not debate a bylaw.
Would you let her speak, Councillor, please?
The only debate is to whether or not you want to defer or refer a bylaw. If council wishes to waive procedural bylaws to allow for further debate or additional debate on this, that's up to council, and you'll need a 2/3 vote.
I'm not asking for a debate. I'm just stating how I feel and how a lot of taxpayers feel and residents. So why can't I do that? Why are you suppressing me from speaking?
Through the mayor to members of council, there are no way are we suppressing the way you are feeling or not allowing you to have your platform. But if you wish to have a further platform, I suggest that you ask your fellow council members to waive procedural bylaw to do so.
Okay, I will. I'd like to speak on this for about 3 or 4 minutes, and if my fellow councilors will allow me, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Do you need a seconder? A seconder?
Democratically, I vote yes.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed?
Mr. Mayor, can we get a recorded vote, please, on this?
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Longo.
I have some questions.
What,
A recorded vote was requested by Councillor Longo with regards to the amendment or the waiving of procedure bylaw at the request of Councillor DeRose to allow him to enter into debate and speak with
no,
regards
not debate. Sorry, not debate.
with
Just
regards
speak.
to additional speaking matters on this bylaw 62 2021. Councillor Longo,
Yes, I'd like him to speak.
Councillor DeRose,
Yes, I'd like to speak.
Councillor Hanley,
Yes, allow them to speak.
Councillor Sentence,
No, we've been over this many times.
Councillor Decker.
Please, Councillor Hanley.
Councillor Decker.
I'm sorry, I just got back in. I'm not sure what we're voting for.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Decker, this is with regards to Councillor DeRose's request to amend the or to waive procedure bylaw to allow for further discussion with regards to bylaw 62-2021.
No.
Councillor Neal?
No.
Councillor Kenny?
No.
Councillor Wilson?
I'm fine with letting him speak, yes.
And Mayor Ugolini?
No.
Disgusting.
Because it does require a 2/3 vote, it does pass.
What? Did not pass. Did not pass.
Did not
I
pass,
don't
sorry.
think Councillor Sentence got to vote.
You get to speak.
I voted.
Carmen, they got-
I voted.
Councillor Sentence voted.
Sorry, it fails because you do not have 2/3 vote.
Okay,
Unbelievable. Yeah, I'm on mic.
what's that?
Biggest deal in Thorold's history, and you're not gonna let someone
Listen.
speak. Ridiculous.
About time you bang the hammer.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah,
Point of order.
bang it when I say something, Mr. Mayor, not when other people say it.
Listen, I put that down for everybody
Can I
that was
speak on it, please?
talking.
Can I speak on it?
I was putting that, I banged the
ask a
hammer.
question?
1 second, Councillor Hanley. I banged the hammer because more than one person was speaking at a time, okay? That's the reason. Okay. Councillor Sentence.
I have
Yeah,
my
I'd
hand
like
up
to
first.
speak on it. I'd like to speak on it while I'm gonna vote for this, and the laughing and the sarcastic comments that come out. I'm gonna speak on this as well, and I will be voting for this bylaw. It's been a year and a half of having my vote disrespected and going for, and anything the public wants to know, I'm for. If it comes to us as a city and they say, hey, the other groups want to
Point
let
of
this
order,
in,
Councillor
go
DeRose
ahead.
wasn't
I
allowed
know,
to comment
point of
on
order.
our question.
Point of
Councillor
order, thank
Hanley.
you. I'm for all the
Point of
public
order.
getting
Councillor
getting
DeRose,
what they
it's
want.
not
Okay.
ask
Point of
questions,
order.
isn't it?
And stopping, thank you.
That's it. Okay, any further speakers before we call the vote?
Isn't it questions? Can I ask a question?
No. Is there no questions? No. Okay.
So you can't ask a question whether or not the federal provincial government's aware of what we're doing because their money's involved in it too, and that's public funds. So now is the feds and the provincial government aware of what we're doing with $75 million of public funds? And you can't even ask a question what it's going to cost us? $1 or 100 million? I can't ask that?
Listen,
I asked him for how long? What's it gonna cost?
Counselor
I didn't
Hanley,
get that answer.
the federal and provincial
Crazy.
governments, we did the transfer payment agreements. Okay?
That transfer payment agreement, but there's agreement in there saying that the public won't know where their money's going? I doubt that's in the agreement where there's 75
Counselor
million
Hanley.
going, Mr. Mayor.
Counselor Hanley, that's it. Okay. Are we ready to
I'm
call
sorry,
the vote?
I'm trying to speak
Are we
up for
ready
the
to call the
taxpayer.
vote? Go ahead, Counselor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to call a recorded vote, please.
Thank you. We're gonna have a recorded vote on bylaw 62-2021, being a bylaw to execute the consortium agreement and legacy lease agreement for Canada Games Park, and that the same now be read a first time, and that was moved by Councillor Decker and seconded by Councillor Kenny. Recorded vote.
And we're gonna hide it forever,
A
Mr. Mayor?
recorded vote
Counselor.
was called.
It's a recorded vote. Please keep your comments off. We're voting now, okay?
A recorded vote was requested by Councillor Decker with regards to bylaw 62-2021. Councillor Longo?
Why would I go first? I didn't ask.
Councillor
for
Longo?
recorded
Councillor
vote.
Longo, yes or no?
Follow procedural bylaw.
Councillor
Longo,
Longo?
yes or no?
We need to follow procedural
Counselor-
bylaw. The person who
Counselor-
asked for the recorded vote votes first, Mr. Mayor. It's basic.
Councillor Decker?
Yes?
Councillor Longo?
No.
Councillor DeRose?
Councillor DeRose?
Is he frozen?
No.
He may be frozen.
He's gone.
Councillor Hanley?
Emphatically, no.
Councillor Sentence?
Definitely
Yeah.
not.
Yes.
Councillor Neal?
Yes.
Councillor Kenny?
Yes.
Councillor Wilson?
Yes.
Mayor Ugolini?
Yes.
The vote carries.
And we got to read it a second time. So, final reading of the bylaw, again moved by Councillor Decker, seconded by Councillor Kenny, and that the bylaw just read a first time be read a second and third time and do pass, and the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. We doing it recorded again? Well, we did the first one. It's the same bylaw.
A recorded vote was requested with regards to the second reading of bylaw 62-2021. Councillor Longo?
I believe he's left the meeting.
Yeah, it's okay.
He's left. Matt? Don't see him. Okay. He is out. Councillor DeRose? Councillor DeRose?
Yeah, sorry, I just got kicked off. Can you repeat what we're voting on? I missed the last 5
It's just
minutes.
the final reading of the bylaw.
No, I will not support it.
Councillor
Thank
Hanley?
Not in my lifetime.
Sorry, Councillor Hanley?
Said no.
Councillor Hanley, is that a yes or a no?
So no, not in my lifetime.
Councillor Sentence?
Yes.
Councillor Decker?
Yes?
Councillor Neal?
Yes.
Councillor Kenny?
Yes, for
Couns-
future lifetimes.
Councillor Wilson?
Yes.
Mayor Ugolini?
Yes.
The vote carries 6-2.
Okay, and now we have the one other bylaw, right? First of all, that takes care of that. I just want to, before we move to the final bylaw, I want to thank our legal team, David Willer and Tom Richardson, for all your work, and our senior staff, Maria Morrow, Jeff Holman, and Manoj Dalwaria, for the countless hours that they put in on this and the work that went into this. And we've been through this, we were open and transparent all along, and we got to this point. The resolution was passed in November. They made the changes we asked them to make and presented it tonight, and I want to thank them all.
Thank you.
So now we're going to go, I got what bylaw do we have left? What one is that? Is that bylaw 6520? 60, where is it? 652021, a bylaw to confirm, adopt, and ratify matters dealt with by council, and now same be read a first time. All those in favor?
Hold on, I want a recorded vote.
Councilor Kenny, are you serious?
Yes, I am, because I think people have left the meeting and they shouldn't have. I want a recorded vote.
Okay. A bylaw to confirm, adopt, and ratify matters dealt with by council resolution. And that was moved by Councilor Decker, seconded by Councilor Kenny, and that now be read a first time. Recorded vote, Councilor Kenny.
A recorded vote was called by Councillor Kenny with regards to confirming bylaw 652021. Councillor Longo is absent. Councillor DeRose?
No?
No. Councillor Hanley? Councillor Hanley? Matt? Councillor Hanley has left. Councillor Sentence?
Can you just say what we're voting on again?
This is to adopt all the business we did at the meeting tonight.
Yes, sorry, a little flustered.
Councillor Decker?
Yes.
Councillor Neal?
Yes.
Councillor Kenny?
Yes.
Councillor Wilson?
Yes.
Mayor Ugolini?
Yes.
Vote has passed 6 to 1.
And the final reading that the bylaw just read a first time be read a second and third time and do pass, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Adjournment. I'm going to change that to moved by Councillor Wilson and seconded by Councillor Sentence, that this meeting is hereby adjourned at 8:50 p.m. And I want to thank everybody, and we got a lot of work ahead. That we've got this behind us now, and we have a lot of work ahead and a lot of important work to do in the city, and I look forward to moving that forward.